Good morning, guys. Good morning, everyone. How is everybody doing today? I hope everybody's having a fantastic morning. It is a Saturday, October 8th, and we are going to be continuing with our morning's Bible reading. And this morning's Bible reading is coming from the book of Deuteronomy, chapters 7 and 8. If you are new here, a very special welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for stopping by. And if you are a returning traveler, I want to say thank you for your continued support. Now let us begin with chapter 7 of Deuteronomy. If you have your book Bible or your Google Bible, you can read along. And we invite you to share information about what we are reading, because what we are trying to do here is to understand the Bible from a layman's perspective. We want to be able to read it for ourselves and hear what it says, rather than being told what it says. And we want to get our interpretation of it based on the context that we have read. We want to understand it because we know that the Bible has an impact on every single aspect of our lives, whether you believe in God, believe in the Bible or not. The laws that are enacted in the land are laws that comes from the archaic version of what was instructed or commanded to the children of Israel in the Bible. So, like it or not, I think it is imperative that us as humans know what is said, what was said rather, to whom it was said, and the context in which it was spoken, so that we can understand whether or not it's relevant, the information is relevant to our modern day society and to our lives. And as for me, I take what's relevant, and whatever is not, I just leave it alone. But there's absolutely no reason to bombard anybody with your belief of what is in the Bible, or isolate anybody because they don't believe what you believe. I just think that everybody has a right to believe what they want and to not believe what they don't want to believe. And if all of our information is going to come out of the Bible, we already have established that no one goes by everything that is in the Bible. No one is able to, because there are laws that were laid down back then, for example, that talks a lot about slaying people for not being obedient in whatever capacity. And certainly now, you wouldn't go around and slay anybody because they did not go to church on Saturday, or because they were dishonoring their parents or anything like that. We wouldn't do that. So that particular law right there, those particular laws right there, are certainly not being used in today's society, and we consider those enacting such cruel penalties for those laws as being barbaric and not fitting for our modern day society. But back then, for them, it was absolutely perfect. It was the law, it was the right thing to do, and that was the only way that they were going to make atonement for whatever it was that they did that was outside of the laws and the commandments and the rules that were given down to Moses to give to the children of Israel and their children and children's children. So if you are interested in that kind of thing, you are right. You're at the right place, where we do not judge. We read and try to understand and share information with each other. So I want to say welcome again to each and every one of you who have come in to the live. Let us begin. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee unto the land whither thou goest to possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. So here the Lord is telling Moses that all these were all the people that the Lord allowed Moses and the Israelites to slay as they continued their journey over into the promised land. So they had slain 7 nations to get there. And all those nations were greater than them. But the Lord be with them. They were able to slay all those nations. Verse 2. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them, and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor shew mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou make unto thy son. For this will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly. Verse 5. But thus shall he deal with them. He shall destroy their altars, and break down their images, and cut down their groves, and burn their graven images with fire. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor chose you, because ye were more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people. But because the Lord loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, hath the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Know therefore that the Lord thy God, he is God, the faithful God, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him, and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations, and repayeth them that hate him to their face, to destroy them. He will not be slack to him that hateth him. He will repay him to his face. Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments, and the statutes, and the judgments, which I command thee this day, to do them. Wherefore it shall come to pass, if ye hearken to these judgments, and keep and do them, that the Lord thy God shall keep unto thee the covenant and the mercy which he sware unto thy fathers. And he will love thee, and bless thee, and multiply thee. He will also bless the fruit of thy womb, and the fruit of thy land, thy corn, and thy wine, and thy oil, the increase of thy kine, and the flocks of thy sheep in the land which he sware unto thy fathers to give thee. Thou shalt be blessed above all people. There shall not be male or female barren among you, or among your cattle. And the Lord will take away from thee all sickness, and will put none of the evil diseases of Egypt, which thou knowest, upon thee, but will lay them upon all them that hate thee. And thou shalt consume all the people which the Lord thy God shall deliver thee. Thine eye shall have no pity upon them, neither shalt thou serve their gods, for that will be a snare unto thee. If thou shalt say in thine heart, These nations are more than I, how can I dispossess them? Thou shalt not be afraid of them, but shalt well remember what the Lord thy God did unto Pharaoh and unto all Egypt. The great temptations which thine eyes saw, and the signs, and the wonders, and the mighty hand, and the stretched out arm, whereby the Lord thy God brought thee out, so shall the Lord thy God do unto all the people of whom thou art afraid. Moreover, the Lord thy God will send the hornet among them, until they that are left and hide themselves from thee be destroyed. Thou shalt not be affrighted at them, for the Lord thy God is among you, a mighty God and terrible, and the Lord thy God will put out those nations before thee by little and little. Thou mayest not consume them at once, lest the beasts of the field increase upon thee. But the Lord thy God shall deliver them unto thee, and shall destroy them with a mighty destruction, until they are destroyed. And he shall deliver their kings into thine hand, and thou shalt destroy their name from under heaven. There shall no man be able to stand before thee, until thou have destroyed them. The graven images of their gods shall he burn with fire. Thou shalt not desire the silver or gold that is on them, nor take it unto thee, lest thou be snared therein, for it is an abomination to the Lord thy God. Neither shalt thou bring an abomination into thine house, lest thou be a cursed thing like it, but thou shalt utterly detest it, and thou shalt utterly abhor it, for it is a cursed thing. Here endeth the reading of Deuteronomy chapter 8. Now, here ended the reading of Deuteronomy chapter 7. We are now moving on to chapter 8. In chapter 7, we hear the Lord still telling Moses, giving him instructions to say, all of these 7 nations that I've given you to destroy, I've given you victory over them. The one thing you shall not take, you can destroy their cities, destroy them, but do not take the silver or the gold that makes up their graven images, their gods, their idols, because if you bring it into your house, you shall be cursed, just like it is cursed. So don't take it. Their daughters, don't take their daughters for your sons, and don't let their sons take your daughters. So he's telling them that they shouldn't be intermarrying and mixing with the people who are not of their faith. And you wonder why there was a law initially about prohibiting interracial marriage, and why some places still adhere to laws like that. Some tribes still adhere to laws of that nature that says you should not marry someone who is not of your tribe. I tell you all the time, guys, that these laws that we see exist in our society today, they didn't just come out of the air. They didn't just fall out of the sky one day. Somebody just decide, I'm just going to say we are not supposed to intermarry or interbreed. Yeah, no. It's coming from somewhere. And right here in the good book is where the whole idea came from. That it was a cursed thing, that it was a bad thing, that it was wrong, that the people who were not like you, weren't raised like you, didn't think like you for some reason, were supposed to be annihilated, and you weren't supposed to mix with them. That was the original thought that came right out of the good book, and had also traveled down into society, so much so that there had to be civil rights movements and new laws enacted to abolish these old archaic ideas that turned into laws. Now we're going to move on. That's food for thought, guys. That's food for thought. And when you think about annihilating somebody because they don't believe what you believe, and they weren't raised the same way, you all don't have the same culture, you think that, oh, that person isn't worthy because you're not the same. Think about it. Think about the harmfulness of just that thought and where it came from. Just stop and think about it. And if you do, you won't need anybody to indoctrinate you about what that idea means and how harmful that idea is. You won't need anybody to indoctrinate you that that idea needed to be trashed right away. We are going to continue with chapter 8. All the commandments which I command thee this day shall ye observe to do, that ye may live and multiply, and go in and possess the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers. And thou shalt remember all the way which the Lord thy God led thee these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble thee, and to prove thee, to know what was in thine heart, whether thou would keep his commandments or not. So you see, guys, that walk through the wilderness for those 40 years was supposed to be a test from God to determine how the children of Israel really felt about him. And we already know that those who expressed doubts and worried about their plight and how they were traveling through this wilderness day and night and weren't getting anywhere, we know what happened to those people who expressed their doubts. So, in fact, it was a test, as being said here in Deuteronomy chapter 8. Verse 3, And he humbled thee, and suffered thee to hunger, and fed thee with manna, which thou knowest not. Neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man doth not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Lord doth man live. Thy raiment waxed not old upon thee, neither did thy foot swell these 40 years. Thou shalt also consider in thine heart that, as a man chasteneth his son, so the Lord thy God chasteneth thee. Therefore thou shalt keep his commandments of the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, and to fear him. For the Lord thy God bringeth thee into a good land, a land of brooks, of water, of fountains and depths that spring out of valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley, and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of oil, olive, and honey, a land wherein thou shalt eat bread without scarceness, thou shalt not lack anything in it, a land whose stones are iron, and out of those hills thou mayest dig brass. When thou hast eaten and art full, then thou shalt bless the Lord thy God for the good land which he hath given thee. Beware that thou forget not the Lord thy God, in not keeping his commandments, and his judgments, and his statutes, which I command thee this day. Lest when thou hast eaten and art full, and hast built godly houses, and dwelt therein, and when thy herds and thy flocks multiply, and thy silver and thy gold is multiplied, and all that thou hast is multiplied, then thine heart be filled up, then thine heart be lifted up, and thou forget the Lord thy God, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage, who led thee through that great and terrible wilderness, wherein were fiery serpents and scorpions, and drought, where there was no water, who brought thee forth water out of the rock of flint, who fed thee in the wilderness with manna, which thy fathers knew not, that he might humble thee, and that he might prove thee, to do thee good at thy latter end. And thou say in thy heart, my power and the might of mine hand hath gotten me this wealth. But thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he sware unto thy fathers, as it is this day. And it shall be, if thou do at all forget the Lord thy God, and walk after other gods, and serve them, and worship them, I testify against you this day, that ye shall surely perish. Verse 20 and last. As the nations which the Lord destroyed before your face, so shall he perish, because he would not be obedient unto the voice of the Lord your God. Here in chapter 8 is another chastising chapter in which the Lord is reminding Moses to remind the children of Israel that he had brought them out of Egypt. He had brought them through the wilderness. He fed them manna, which their forefathers didn't know of. He gave them water to drink when they were thirsty. And in the wilderness, there was nothing to drink. He gave them water at the rock of flint. That's where Moses struck the rock. The rock was made of flint. I don't know if any of you here know, like, flintstone. When I was growing up, we used to find flintstones, out in the bushes. We'd find flintstone. And they would say if you rub them together, if you rub two flintstones together, they would, start gashing fire. But of course we know that any stone you rub together, eventually they get hot and the friction starts to look like flame, because older people back in the Stone Age, people used to use the rubbing of stones together to start fires. So here the Lord is reminding the children of Israel of all that he had done for them and why it was imperative that they serve him. Because if they did not serve him as he required them, then they should be prepared to be destroyed, just as how he had destroyed the other people who were not serving him in the name of Israel. So guys, I want to thank you all so much for coming into the live. If you were in the background, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for listening. Join us again tomorrow morning as we continue reading the book of Deuteronomy. We'll read chapters 9 through 12 tomorrow. Okay? Thanks again, guys, for coming in. Until next time, this is Trev from Trevessence, where your journey matters